There is blind justice, and then there is trading justice, so that you can finally afford to get that laser eye surgery. Not only will people find you more attractive once you ditch those old glasses, you'll be able to see your charts better. That's what we call win-win. Speaking of winning, it's time for a little trading justice. Brought to you by TackleTrading.com.
Welcome out to the Trading Justice Podcast. My name is Matt Justice. I am your host along with my co-host, Tim Justice. Tim, how you doing today?
Amazing. It's late, but excited to be here.
Well, you know, we promised the Trading Justice fans out there of the podcast that we would do a podcast on the Fed today. Both of us got a little busy. I was teaching, you were teaching, you had a mentor student today. So it was just kind of one of those things, I think, that kind of just happened out there. But dedicated, primed, coming to you from about 10:30 our time here. So a lot to get into. Let's jump right into it. Tim, what was the news of today?
Well, I had a roast beef with blue cheese at lunch.
Nice. How was it?
Coffee in the morning.
Fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I stood all day while I worked. I've been doing that lately, you know, the standing work routine. They say it helps you lose weight. I read an amazing article on Facebook. What is that?
I'm trying to fix audio right now. I think we're good. Go ahead.
So there's not voices in my head here tonight?
No, that sounded like, what was that? There was a movie a long time ago, White Noise, where you had the little ghosts come through electricity. I do not think that was it.
Poltergeist, yeah.
No, this was after that, but yeah, Poltergeist 2, nothing's coming through electricity, you're good to go. So back to the news of the day. You had the roast beef sandwich, and you were standing up because it helps you lose weight. Awesome.
Well, and it also, they say it helps you, keep attention and whatnot. And then I read a great article online from the New Yorker about how there's a correlation between walking regularly and creativity. And I liked that because you know how I like to walk around.
You do.
But the most exciting news of the day was the Fed announcement,
Federal
2 o'clock p.m.
Central
Eastern Time.
Bank. Yeah, and what I want to do, Tim, we're going to get into some of the issues with the Fed. And I've been racking my brain around this, kind of working out the time frame here. So I'd like to get into it, but I want to play a couple excerpts about just 2 minutes long, about the Fed decision, just to kind of give people an awareness of it. So let's both listen to this. It's about 2 minutes in length, and then we'll talk about it, okay?
Well, hold on a sec.
Okay.
Slow down. There may be listeners out there. I'm sure we got a lot of experienced ones. We know our group. But there might be people who don't know what the Fed is. I mean, or who the FOMC is.
That even if that is, I know it tried, but that's still sad. I'm kind of depressed at that.
Is that an assumption we should make, just that they know?
It's unfortunate, but yes, I do believe that might be an assumption that we should make. It's just, I'm saying it's sad that, celebrity news and NFL news and, your ham sandwich is, more people are aware of that than some of the most important things in their life, called the Federal Central Bank.
Yeah, that's right. But if you do want to read more about it, we do make some assumptions on the podcast. Go to federalreserve.gov and you can read their mandate and their purpose. We're just going to bitch about them, probably, is what I'm guessing. Maybe Matt has a different take on this whole thing.
I had a different take in 8 years. It's been 8 years since they last had a rate hike, T. 8 years. It's been since 2006 since the Fed had a rate hike.
It's incredible.
And that is amazing to me. 8 years the Fed has not had a rate hike, and now they're projecting rate hikes. I've been projecting rate hikes. But the one thing I want to talk about today, T, is let's say you have a market, an economic recession. Let's say you have the markets going down. Are they really going to hike rates in that environment?
No, and they're leaving the door open for that. Their two mandates, right, are to keep inflation under control and have price stability and full employment. And I mean, come on, I think that what they've always done, and I've got a lot to say about this, and we'll let it kind of flow through the conversation. But I know they're leaving the back door open, like that old Creedence song, looking out my back door. They are willing to go back to their old policies if the economy got bad again.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I want to talk about is, there's a time clause in the Fed decision, and it's been in there for a very long time now. But basically, they're going to keep interest rates low at for the foreseeable future. And basically, there's a lot of discussion today concerning what does that mean, because when we're talking about the future, we're talking about a time frame, right? But that's not what the Fed means. The Fed doesn't mean a time frame. The Fed means what they're trying to get at is they want to basically leave it open for whatever the economy looks at down the road. And so I don't understand it. It makes no logical sense whatsoever in any capacity that the Fed is coming out there and they're saying, the foreseeable future has nothing to do with the future. Nothing to do with the future. And that's amazing to me that somebody can actually say with a straight face that, we're going to keep interest rates low for the foreseeable future, but the future doesn't mean time. It doesn't mean calendar. It doesn't mean next December. It means the economy and the health of the economy. Well, why don't you just say it like that? It makes no sense to me in any capacity. But let's get the 2 minutes out of the way. Let's hear from Janet Yellen herself what this monetary policy was today. So sit back, enjoy yourself for about a minute and 45 seconds.
Okay.
Reduction in the pace of its asset purchases. The committee also maintained
pause. Hold on.
guidance
Hold
regarding
on.
the federal.
Pause that thing. Her voice is going to kill me. I don't want to be negative about it. I might need to do some quick meditation. Get centered, get into a Zen-like state, so I'm not just negative about that. That might kill me though.
It did. I've been watching on a one of my monitors full screen the entire thing, and it's amazing to listen to that for 45 minutes. And there's like these big close-ups on Janet Yellen, and then with the way she talks and whatnot, she talks with the loving care of a grandmother, and she looks like Betty White, and it's like I'm picturing my grandmother, right? And
right.
She's literally, flat out lying constantly, just considerable time phrases, and that doesn't mean calendar, and we've lowered our GDP estimates, but that's not a bad thing, and milk just hit an all-time high today, but inflation's at 1.7 yearly, and unemployment, we've been for years now, we've been saying unemployment had to get to 6.0 for them to start cutting back, and now it's 5.2 to 5.5%, and it's just like, oh my God, I can't stand it. I just got to close my eyes because my grandmother would have just taken a whip. So
I'm pretty odd, right? Pretty strange guy at times.
I don't know about that. But...
well, I like to tell myself that, but I keep these Word documents on my computer for all kinds of different things. Like I have one called Free Flow Ideas. Whenever I just have some random idea, I bullet point it and save it. I've got like 50 of them in there. I've got one called Fantasy Football Buzz. Whenever I see an article, I snip the thing and put it in there. Yeah. I got one called T-shirts. We talked about T-shirts on the podcast before. I just put my newest T-shirt idea on there.
Let's hear it.
Just a full screen print of Janet Yellen's face.
Dude.
I would wear it. I would rock it. I would love it.
Dude, you could get away with that.
Nobody would know what it is except for trading nerds. So
you could get away with that, and people would probably be wondering, what in the world is he doing?
Who is this guy?
And who in the world? He's wearing his grandmother on his shirt. What in the hell is wrong with this guy?
All right, light up our audio.
All right,
I'll listen this time.
All right.
I can't promise.
Target, and reaffirmed its view that a highly accommodative stance of monetary policy remains appropriate. In the labor market, conditions have improved further in recent months. Although the pace of job growth has slowed some recently, job gains have averaged more than 200,000 per month over the past 3 months.
Hey,
Stop.
we got to stop there. They have been talking about how, the labor market has improved, how we've seen all the headlines, 200,000 new jobs on average created in 2014, and yet the GDP data is forecasted less. What is going on with those two statements? That GDP, that they're going to basically project downwards on GDP, but yet they're basically, claiming that the labor market is improving, but it's just not there yet.
Who is buying this crap, Matt?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like who are they? Because I'm serious now. Who are they putting the statement out, believing that somebody out there's nodding their head?
Oh, it was awesome.
It's not traders.
No, trade. Oh my.
It's not Wall Street. Wall Street doesn't believe it.
Economists, Wall Street, the private sector, they think the Fed's insane right now. I mean, and by the way, when have you ever heard the Fed actually tell public to be aware of something? There's dark waters ahead of us, dark clouds ahead of us. They're always projecting out the most positive thing out there.
Oh yeah, I remember when the real estate markets were crashing, and Ben Bernanke would come on TV and say how he felt like real estate prices would stabilize through this quarter and that quarter, and they crashed for years.
Early 2008 when things were starting to go down, and they're coming out there and talking about the problems in the economy, and he sounds up saying, no, housing, we're seeing an uptick in housing. We're seeing the auto industry do really, really well, and we're bailing out the auto industry 6 months later, and the market's crashing, and Lehman Brothers is going bad, and Bear Stearns is gone, and it's just that like literally nobody is buying this trash, but yet the market is still just going up because why not? Why not? If they're going to keep interest rates at all-time lows, they got a zero interest rate right now, T. A zero, and they've had a zero interest rate for the 5 years. And they're now continually saying for the considerable time, for the foreseeable future, and it's just like, are you kidding me, guys? There's things that just do not add up in any capacity, and I can't stand the fact that the Fed can come out there and claim that the labor market has improved. And even in her speech today, she was talking about how just 5 years ago we were dealing with a 10% unemployment number. Now we're dealing with 6%. But she doesn't talk about how it's full-time jobs that are being eliminated. She doesn't talk about how part-time jobs are replacing them. She doesn't talk about how people are struggling out there, that the cost of an average family is increasing in America, but yet wages haven't done it. And yet they're sitting there claiming about the labor market has improved. But where's the actual evidence? Where's the money at? Where's the families that are doing better and better at? Middle class America isn't doing any better today than they were 10 years ago.
I'll guarantee you this. When they release the minutes in a couple of weeks, you know what they're going to say is they're going to talk about how the labor market is showing improvement, but it's not real improvement. You'll have to read between the lines. Yeah. You'll have to know how to read Fed speak. But this stuff she's talking about right now is it's not so disingenuous.
It's a bold-faced lie, and I can't stand it. There's nothing that drives me more crazy than Fed speak and whatnot. And it's like, you really think people buy this? And anybody that actually watches this stuff takes the time to watch the hour that it took for her to read the policy statement, and as well as listen to the interview. They're not buying it. And I'll tell you right now, I was listening to the questions that were being asked today during the Q&A segment of the press conference, and I'll tell you right now that those people from The Economist, those people from the New York Times, those people from Bloomberg, they weren't buying it. You should have saw the looks on the faces when she would not answer the questions directly. She literally would go on for 5-6 minutes to answer a question and forget the other question and say, what was the other question again? And it was just like, literally, are you going to give us a straight answer? At one point during the interview process, Tim, she talked about there was a question that basically said this: are you at the Fed concerned about what's going on with Scotland and England? Are you concerned that the Scots and do you see that having an impact on the currency market and the global market? And you know what she said? Nothing. She didn't say one thing. She didn't say, no, in fact, all she said was this. She said, well, the Scottish are going to the polls tomorrow to put forth their democratic, vote. And good luck to them.
You know who Donald Rumsfeld is, right?
Yeah.
It just reminded me of something people should go look up out there. It's a Louis C.K. Before Louis C.K.
Oh, God, I've seen it. It's like 10 minutes.
It's amazing.
It's awesome.
And he's interviewing Donald Rumsfeld on a radio show.
Yeah.
And he asked Donald Rumsfeld, Mr. Rumsfeld, it's great to have you in New York City. I appreciate the book. There's a lot of people out there really concerned with this. Are you, in fact, an alien lizard dressed up in a human's body, and do you eat babies?
You're kidding me.
Rumsfeld, he does not miss a beat. He says, I had lunch in the park the other day. And he says, I had lunch in the park the other day. I got to meet a friend. Just went right through the question. I think these politicians and even like the Yellen, they are trained to just dodge. That's like an extreme example, a funny one from the funniest comedian on the planet.
He is number one in my estimation.
But the answer tells me a lot about how these guys in power and these ladies in power react to a question they don't want. They just move right past it.
Move right past it, I wish I have the interview up right now, and I just want to play just a segment of it, just to hear Louis C.K.'s voice. Okay, so I'm just going to play just one, like 30 seconds of it, okay?
All right.
Good. Very good. What a pleasure to talk to you. Donald Rumsfeld's new book, Known and Unknown, a memoir. I've been looking through this. Fascinating stuff, because you have been a part of history in this country for many years, known many presidents. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rumsfeld.
Well, thank you. It's a little embarrassing to discover that I've lived 1/3 of the history of our country.
1/3.
This one's long.
I was a Navy pilot.
Say again.
You're going to have to skip. This one's long. I think it's like a 17-minute interview.
Yeah.
Cut into about 4 or 5 minutes in.
All right. I'm cutting into 4.5 minutes.
Had good relations with many of the governments in there, in that region, and it was contributing to a stable situation with respect to the generally hostile attitude towards Israel, organized and very vicious, like Hezbollah in Lebanon, and or like the Ayatollahs in Iran.
Yeah.
So you could get the Muslim Brotherhood.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
Radical extremists.
Exactly.
Over Egypt, which would be terribly dangerous.
Absolutely.
Listen, and these are great questions, Anthony, and they're questions that Mr. Rumsfeld is going to answer better than almost anybody in the world.
Yeah.
But I still want to know if he's a lizard and if he is.
Stop it.
If he's tasted human flesh. I just want to know.
Mr. Rumsfeld, again, I want to apologize for Louis C.K. He's a stand-up comedian. He's playing at the Borgata.
It's
go to
a legitimate.
Borgata.com.
Look, if he's a lizard who has eaten people,
don't encourage him. It'll just make him worse.
I will stop.
If he's a lizard who's eating people,
it's the funniest thing ever.
It's
That's just to do a drop. That's on a radio show that used to be called the Opie and Anthony Show. It's getting canceled, I think, because Anthony got fired. But it's something I listened to for a long time. That Rumsfeld thing. And it's funny on its own, but it actually does tie into this because Matt, it's amazing to me how somebody in power can take a question and just ignore it.
And just blatantly ignore it. And
let's just talk about lunch.
Lucy, are you an alien lizard who eats people? And he literally just starts talking about the Ayatollah from, Iran. He just literally just goes to the radical, type stuff that that happened. But funny. And that's exactly what Janet Yellen did when she got the Scottish question today. She literally just said, they're going to the polls. Yeah.
Now I want to ask Janet Yellen if she's a lizard.
Are you a lizard who literally eats people? Are you an alien lizard that eats people? Yes, that's awesome. Here's some more excerpts from Janet Yellen.
Over the next 3 years, the projections for real GDP growth runs somewhat above the estimates of longer-run normal growth. The FOMC participants continue to see inflation moving gradually.
Hold on, let's talk GDP real quick. What she said there is over the next few years, GDP looks to look as, better than long-term growth, right? But what she's not talking about, T, and what people need to realize is that 2013 GDP growth was actually less than 2012. And projected 2014 GDP growth is actually less than 2013. And if they cut out quantitative easing completely out of 2015, because 2013 had QE and it was still less than 2012. And if they cut out 2015, there's zero chance that GDP growth is better than 2014. And so she's talking about how long term, the next few years is going to be better than long term, but we've decreased our GDP for now projected 3 straight years, and even the Fed today lowered their guidance regarding GDP growth. What do you got to say for that?
It's just unbelievable how they try to reframe everything into a positive instead of just informing the public. If your mandate is truly to stabilize prices, you're doing the worst job you can, because this is the way markets work. You trickle up, you trickle up, you trickle up, and then you crash. And so all of this pumping and pumping, Wall Street's going to hammer it at some point, Matt.
They are, man.
So this intent they have, they're ignoring reality and history. Mm-hmm. Real money, smart money is set up and prepared to crush this market once it goes. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I have no idea when it will go, because I'm just a guy living in the suburbs, But I do know that it will at some point, whether it's the end of this year or early next year, whenever, and it's going to be bad. And so all this stuff that they keep talking about, and this whole theory that we got to make everybody soft. We got to tickle
Tim,
everybody's back until they go to bed.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, because either one or two things is happening here. Either one, the federal central bank, Janet Yellen, and the bank presidents of the central bank, either they are bold-faced lying, or they do not have any clue about market cycles and economics. Which one is more probable?
I don't know. I mean, I have strong opinions about this, and my instinct is that they probably think they're doing the right thing. I think that a lot of conspiracy type of stuff is not. A lot of it is based in reality, and some of it's not. And my belief is, this is the kind of person, went to a real nice school, got a big degree, big fancy degree up on the wall. They made connections. This is just the life they expect to live. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the life they expect to live. Cocktail parties and on CNN and the whole thing. Being a Fed governor. I mean, this isn't what just some random person falls into. And I bet they just assume this is the role I'm supposed to take. If you're a Kennedy and you go to a party, you don't do Jaeger shots, right? There's a certain expectation of behavior for a lot of people that come up in certain circles, and mm-hmm. I really believe they probably think they're just doing what they're supposed to do. So they may not even believe they're lying.
No shotgun beers if you're at a Kennedy party.
I would, and I'm sure the Kennedys.
I'll bet you the Kennedys did it. I think that's the wrong one to say they did. I think they did do it. Bad analogy on that one. But no, I get your point, Tim, and I honestly struggle with it because I don't think the people that are running the Fed are inherently evil, and from everything I've ever seen, read, or heard about Janet Yellen is she believes in the monetary policies as put forth by the Fed, how destructive it may be, but the problem is that every forecast the Fed has put out, they've been incorrect on. They've been incorrect on. And all the forecasts that we put out, all the forecasts that we hear from Wall Street, all the forecasts we get from the private sector, all of them are worse than what the Fed is doing. And the Fed always thinks in terms of rosy, 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 and everything's going to be okay, and everything's going to be good. But that's not what people are facing with right now, and it's a sad state of reality.
Do you know who Otto Peterson is?
No,
Do you know
I
that
don't
name?
think so.
He's a comedian from New York who used to do a comedy show. He died this year, but he had a puppet. He was a ventriloquist.
Okay.
And the puppet was the most vile, foul, offensive thing you've ever heard in your life.
Okay.
Blaming Janet Yellen for what comes out of her mouth is like blaming the puppet, George, for what he said. Somebody's moving her mouth. Okay?
I gotcha.
They put her in place because they know that she'll say the company line. She will do what they tell her to do. Now, who they are, you fill in the blank.
Well, I got a call from Jeff today, and Jeff Crystal is our currency mentor. He taught us a lot about technical analysis and whatnot, and he was talking a lot about who they were. A lot
can only imagine.
about who they were. And basically the conversation started off with, hey, Matt, okay, I want to talk to you about SDR. And I want to talk to you about who actually created the new development bank with the BRICS, and because obviously that's something I'm highly interested in as a currency evaluator, trader, and whatnot. And loved the conversation, by the way, but it got into deep historical family type things. And he was talking a little bit about who, quote unquote, they were. It was fascinating conversation, though. Let's go on and play another excerpt from Yellen's press conference here.
Back toward 2%. The central tendency of the inflation projections is 1.5 to 1.7% in 2014, rising to 1.9 to 2% in 2017. We have
She's talking about her, once again, projections on inflation, that we're in 1.5 to 1.7% this year, coming into close to 1.9 to 2.1%. Those projections are, and again, what she's not saying is what the projections were 6 months, a year ago. And in every projection that fell, they're downward spiraling on their projections. It's the one thing that honestly just confuses me more than anything. We get this economic report every month called the CPI report, and that's what Yellen is talking about, the Consumer Price Index. And it basically measures the rate of inflation, okay? And the number today, we got a report today, it was actually coming in basically zero, right? If you count for other things, it came in at a negative 0.2, and that's where she got her 1.7 was from that economic report today. But when you look at it just from a life standpoint, just from a cost to run your family standpoint, how in the world can we actually say with a straight face that the cost for average people in America is decreasing right now? I mean, literally, the food price index has increased 270% in the last 10 years. And oil prices have increased 660% when you're looking at the cost of oil in the last 10 years. When you're looking at the cost of gasoline, it's risen 250% in the last 10 years. The headline on milk today was milk today hit an all-time high. An all-time high. And yet we're trying to say to America, and the Fed is trying to say to America, hey guys, we got a deflation problem. We need to pump in enough money to increase the cost of all of this stuff. And so if you think you're having problems spending now, just wait till we get done with it.
I don't even understand.
I don't get it, man.
Every data point is ignoring raw facts about what's actually happening in the economy.
Well, you look at it's telling partial truths is what it is. You look at the CPI report. They don't actually include everything in the CPI report. You look at the unemployment report. They don't include the real unemployment number, which is like 17% when you include people who are no longer seeking employment, when you include, the average work week, when you include all this stuff. They're only actually projecting people who are receiving job benefits, unemployment benefits. A lot of their CPI projections don't include the cost of energy and the cost of food and the rising costs because they claim they're too volatile. And I saw a headline just, you figured this one out for me. I saw a headline recently. It was Obama basically claiming victory that they had only basically ran a deficit of $600 billion, like $580 billion, right? But yet, if you look at the total debt ratio that we track, we actually went into debt more than $1 trillion. So hold it. How in the world can Obama claim victory on claiming a $600 billion deficit, but yet the U.S. government actually went into debt over $1 trillion? Those numbers don't add up. How do you add those up, T?
Well, I love that you're bringing in Obama because what's the difference between the Fed and politics right now? I mean, it's the same kind of logic, same kind of reasoning.
Else, yeah.
It's like they're running for office. The way that they just
Obama
disseminate information
is
crazy.
Republicans and Democrats are running for office constantly. Okay, the Fed, they're not running for office, T. They're a private institution, a private entity. Okay, supposed to be. But why is the Fed, when was it the Fed's role to basically just tell all the warm and fuzzies? When has that ever been a private institution responsibility to make sure that the masses in America have enough drugs in them that they don't ask the right questions? That's not right. This is
what happens when you give up your rights and your control and your oversight as people. People get nervous during recessions, and so they allow the Fed to step in without any complaint because most people don't understand the banking system, Matt, and so they just have allowed them to usurp more control. The only real institutions that would be able to check them at the door would be Wall Street, but why would Wall Street care? Fed is their pump and dump scheme. So they're not going to get in the way.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple questions, okay? And this goes to my level of disgustment with the American consumer. What percentage of the American population knew that the Fed was releasing monetary policy today?
Ooh.
Now, I'm not saying understood. I just knew that they were releasing it. Percent.
So if I say one, what is that? 3.5 million people?
American workforce, you're like
million.
You're 350 million people working, 130 million,
I'd say 1/3%. I'd say 1 million people
0.003%. 0.003%. Of those people that knew it was being released, how many actually took the time to read the 890 words, T? 890 words of the policy statement. I mean,
1% of them, maybe 30,000 people.
We're talking about 30,000 people in a 300 million populace that literally took the time necessary to try to try to understand something that has such a dramatic issue. And yeah, T, we don't teach this in America, but you know what? We've allowed these things to exist. We've allowed these things to happen. We've allowed it to get so bad because now we don't even ask questions. Thomas Jefferson would have burned this son of a bitch down, dude. He would burn the bastard down.
Yes, for sure. Well, we could talk about that forever. I mean,
it just makes me sick. And I know I should be a little more, understanding of the American consumer and what they go through. And maybe there's a time for that, but that time is not right now. Americans have a responsibility to stand up and do something about it. And actually get out there and take control of their lives. And I'm so sick of the goddamn excuses that they put forth out there. Get off your goddamn iPhone for 2 freaking seconds. Pisses me off.
What if I got a Samsung Galaxy?
Get off the goddamn Samsung Galaxy, even though it's better than the iPhone.
What if I'm getting the Note? Whereas
that's
Apple
different.
Watch?
I mean, if it's the Apple Watch. Interesting on the Apple Watch, only 10% of Apple users actually said they would think about buying the iWatch. Only 10% of actual Apple users. That's amazing to me.
Well, think about it.
It's going to be a buzz, man.
Our generation, Matt, we used to wear watches. We were happy when we could take them off. Like the idea of putting a watch back on,
that's because you
I
got
don't
off
get
work,
it.
man. You went in, you got off work, you put it on the nightstand, and it felt good.
I think this Apple Watch thing might be for the kids, for the young kids. It'll be kind of a real
So we're going to
thing
buy
that's
our
new
kids
to
a
them.
$350 watch.
Yeah,
Oh, Lord.
that's true.
Only if it has a tracking device in it.
That's right. Well, I don't. We'll talk about that another
Yeah.
time. I'll tell you, I appreciate your passion because I don't see enough people passionate about
just
issues
makes
that
me
matter.
sick.
Whether it be, I mean, there's a million things I can get into.
Well, I'll just say this. Let me just say one thing on it. Okay? The reason, the very reasons that they complain when Wall Street takes their money in bear markets is because they are flat out ignorant. They were flat out ignorant, and they won't take the time to do anything about it because they have, they get tired during the day, and we all have 24 hours in the day, but whatever. Successful people get out there and they put forth the effort, man. They put forth the effort, and I'll tell you this. Hey, you're breaking up. There you go. You know who BlackRock is?
Oh yeah.
The massive hedge fund, right?
Yeah.
They run a $3.4 trillion hedge fund. There's different entities within BlackRock. The CEO of BlackRock basically stated that their entire business model, the biggest hedge fund in the entire world, relies on the ignorance of the American populace because BlackRock knows one thing. They will never put forth short-term effort for their larger, longer-term gain. And he said we rely on that for our business model because our model doesn't work unless we have that. And they're telling people, what percent of the population of BlackRock exist?
Yeah.
I can get into this all day long. It infuriates me that I don't want to get into it too much, but I think I've said my piece.
No, you got to go down the rabbit hole sometimes. They say some of the best ideas you'll ever generate. There's that exercise where you do free flow ideas, and you write down, and you keep writing and writing and writing and writing until your brain is empty, and then you keep writing, even if they seem bad. And they say some of the best things you'll ever come up with are at moments like that. I think one of the great things I love about the podcast is that we get to kind of vent.
Yeah.
I mean, we get to kind of vent, and hopefully people enjoy it. These are musings and complaints of a trader who does this all day long, and we work with people. Here's the reason why you're so passionate, Matt, and I think I can tap into this. The market will crash, and you'll have to listen to people complain when you're here now trying to tell them to get educated when they need it.
We've been trying to tell them for years.
Yeah.
For years now. You got to take control. You got to take control. And yet those same people who won't take this freaking 30 minutes a day to again, put forth short-term effort, they're going to sit there and complain about how Wall Street took their money, about how the dollar's devalued, and whatnot. And it's going to be, are you kidding me? You had ample opportunity to do something about it.
Yeah.
And honestly, T, that's one of the reasons why we started Tackle Trading. That's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, because we wanted multiple avenues to get the message out there that people did have an answer. They did have, if they put forth some effort, they can get out there and they can make changes they need to be successful. And you know what, T, that's why I know you're the exact same way, but that's why I go literally out of my way every day to answer anybody's questions on tackle trading, to respond to them, to give them hope out there that something is changing, and like, Adam Jones out there on tackle putting forth questions talking about, and these are just new traders. These are people who are trying to control their lives, and he's talking about doing bull puts and condors on the Russell 2000, and you got people like Eduardo and Pavi out there who are really, really new to the markets, and they're talking about, hey, listen, I've been watching your videos and I've been reading the blog post, and now I understand what Vega is. And Pavi says on the Clubhouse, for the first time, I think I understand now what Vega trading is. Pavi just started this. He started this like 3 months ago, and now I understand what Vega trading is. Need to play some trades first, but you guys rock. Eduardo is out there, talking about, doing these volatile pharmaceutical positions, and Robert Rotolo is doing what he's doing, and there's been so much just positive activity out there, and I'm getting excited about it, T, and whatnot. But whenever I see the Fed talk like this, it just triggers me, man. It just triggers me because I watch that, I see what they're saying, I understand Fed talk, and then I think about how, it just upsets me as an economist, it upsets me as an American, it upsets me as a capitalist, and I just look around the people on the street, and I look around society, and I look around, the forums, and I was on YouTube, and I think what triggered me the most, I was on YouTube today trying to find excerpts to actually play for the podcast today, right? And the only one I could find was a 2-minute excerpt from Bloomberg. That's it. Because the one that the Fed puts out, you can't stop and play it at different levels. And so it's like I'm looking at that. Then I was just researching some of the number one YouTube channels, and they're all like these dumb as hell, random, nothing, provide nothing, no value in any capacity, and yet they have 3 million followers that are all going to lose their shirts within the next 2 years. And I'm just saying, I'm disgusted by it. I'm disgusted by consumer America right now. I'm disgusted by our monetary policies. I'm disgusted by Republicans and Democrats. I'm just disgusted in every capacity right now.
Hey, I'm not disgusted with the Clubhouse. That place
That
is hot.
thing's rocking, man.
Yeah.
That thing's rocking. It's just going to get better and better and better. And you know what, guys? And I'll tell you this right now, and I know every one of those people over there at Tackle Trading are the exact same way. If you invest in yourself, we will do whatever we can to help you out. Whatever we can. We got a ton of videos up, a ton of blogs up. We're answering questions every day. We're answering questions on Twitter and Facebook, and there's so many ways that you can get at the information. And one thing that I think we've kind of perfected over a decade of doing this, T, is teaching people how to do this in the right way, in the quickest way possible. And it really doesn't take long. And I believe what the BlackRock guy said. People won't put forth effort for their short-term effort, because that's what it takes. It takes a decision. That's it. It takes a decision. And it just, Well,
I'll tell you, I have had a mindset, just absolute transformation over the last few years. And I will just tell you guys, if you ever get to this point, you're going to love it. And every day I wake up, Matt, and I just try to make it an amazing day. Not only economically and financially, but I want to surround myself with smart and creative and challenging people. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're creating that community. Yeah. And it's just an extension of that. Let your entrepreneurial spirit kind of shine through every single morning. And whether it's your trading account or a conversation you have with a friend or whatever, just always be engaging. Engage with the world. Don't let that go. Well, it's so important physically, psychologically, spiritually. I mean, I really do believe all of those things tie into each other. So, yeah.
I know I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but I'm looking at, we work with so many people that are, in fact, trying to do exactly what we're talking about. Just to name a few that over there at Tackle, doing what they can, trying to get the help. Stan and Christian and Nikita and, Erica and Scott and, you got Anna and Pavi and you got Dimitri and Dennis and Luis and you got our buddy Prokar, man, our web developers, trying to get a little bit of control, and he's trying to learn in the currencies now, too. And you got Mark and Francisco and Donna and Steven and Raman and Jeremy and, another Francisco and Cal and Sonny. Love Sonny, buddy. Sonny and his significant other, they're awesome. And you got Kevin and Carlos, and you got so many people out there that are trying to do exactly what we're talking about. And I just want to right now tell every one of those people over at Tackle Trading that are trying to do whatever they can to become successful. I got you right behind you. I'm right behind you guys. Tim's right behind you. Noah's right behind you. Gino's right behind you. And it's so inspiring to see people like that have the courage. And I'm going to say that as straight as I can. Have the courage to do something about it.
Yeah, I just talked to one of my mentor students today. Give you a cool story, Matt. And him and his wife, they came out for mentoring in July. They met with me in my office. I'd been working with them since May or April. Know them pretty well. Nice people, younger, no kids. And he wants to get out of the rat race, and he's trying his best to learn all of this stuff. Just went live over the summer.
Awesome.
And he turned his accounts from the mentoring and everything, where he was down to start the first quarter of the year or so, maybe 2 quarters of the year. Now he's up like 10%.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw a tweet from your Hall of Famer Steve today. Closed out over 5 Gs on today's movement.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited to be on the big stage. I know we talked about that last night, but
5 Gs in a day, guys. That's what Steve pulled out.
We need like a video crew of that. Don't you think?
I think we do. We got to get, and we'll get some of those stories out there on video. But we're primarily, we're traders. We like to teach online. We do things a lot over the webinar. By the way, we're 45 minutes into the podcast, and we are currently 1 minute into Janet Yellen's speech. Just wanted to throw it out there.
I think it derailed us when you told me just be quiet for 2 minutes. There's no way I was going to do that.
Oh,
So,
I think, honestly, I think we got 5 seconds into it, and you're like, stop the playback right now.
We were raised in a way, Matt, where if somebody said, "Hey, Tim, move left," we would move
right on purpose.
Yeah. Just
yes,
challenging.
Just completely.
All right, let's light up some Janet Yellen.
Okay, just a few more seconds.
Reduced our pace of asset purchases again at this meeting. Starting next month, we will be purchasing $15 billion of securities
Thank
per
you,
month,
Janet Yellen.
down $10
Horrible
billion per
person.
month from our current rate. The committee will end this program at our next meeting. Regarding interest rates, the committee reaffirmed its forward guidance that it likely will be appropriate to maintain the current target range for the federal funds rate for a considerable time after the...
That's the statement right there, T. Considerable time that has nothing to do with time. They're just leaving their options open just in case things tank again. But the problem is, T, they can't cut rates. It doesn't matter if they're already low. They can't cut them.
Well, here's what's interesting, and we were talking about it before, and I'll cut right to the chase. They've been saying they're going to reduce tapering all year. They've done it. Mm-hmm. They're going to go to no tapering, but they still hold all of these assets. That's why they don't have to taper anymore. That's why they can end the QE.
Honestly, Tim, you're making a great point right here because you look at what the Fed's doing. They got $4.7 trillion that they're reinvesting.
Yeah.
You can pull out the $85 billion if you're allocating 4.7, and let me just play the last 10 seconds. I got a question for you.
The asset purchase program ends, especially if projected inflation continues to run below the committee's 2% longer run goal.
There's one of the caveats.
And longer-term inflation expectations remain well anchored.
There is Janet Yellen and her speech. Foreseeable future, considerable time if inflation hits our targets.
Should I have 2 T-shirts printed up? Would you wear one?
I would. Hell yes, I'd wear one. Okay. And on the front, I want Janet Yellen's picture. On the back, I want got milk. That's what I want. That's it.
All right.
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
$8 a gallon. We got to get. Do you think if we sold those on Tackle Trading with just Janet Yellen's mug on there, with the headline on the back says "Got Money," that we would get contacted by the NSA?
Well, maybe not the NSA. Maybe some of those organizations Jeff was talking about, though.
Ooh, he was telling me, I'm not kidding, that 40 billionaire bankers, or maybe it was 20, have committed suicide or have been randomly killed in the last 9 months. Shadow financial things. It was actually. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying it was awesome talking.
Yeah, I've read some stuff on Zero Hedge about that actually.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting topic, but I wonder if the NSA, CIA, if they have write-ups of this shit.
Oh yeah, I mean the NSA building is like 15 minutes from my house.
I'm just saying, because we are. I don't want to say we're anarchists because we already went through that conversation, but we basically don't have very many kind things to say about any one of them. We're trying to steer.
Matt. We are harmless.
I don't want to be harmless
I don't
anymore.
think we're the people they're worried about.
I want to be the person they're worried about.
Maybe one day, brother.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We got to get enough people to act, and then maybe.
Well, even that. I mean, that brings us into the entire thing about can you affect change? I mean, whether we're talking about economy or person or politics,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard plenty of people, because I've always been interested in politics, even from a very young age. Man, I've had a lot of friends over the years say, "Oh, you can't change the world. You can't do that." Well, of course, you can't change. You can't change
the world.
Everybody in the world. You have direct influence, though.
Well,
and if you don't take a stand, then you're a coward.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you don't take a stance for what you believe in, you're a coward. And I was in a training just like last week in San Jose, and somebody started talking about voting randomly, and they said, "Well, I don't vote." I said, "Why don't you vote?" And they said, "My vote doesn't mean anything." I said, from a pure number standpoint, you might be right, but it's that mentality, and just by saying that, guess what? You're going to affect somebody else. And they're going to affect somebody else. And then you're going to have that Kevin Bacon 60 degree of separation that impacts somebody else. And just by having that mentality, it's what has that mentality, that mindset, well, what can I do? I can't change anybody. That's what has led to decades and decades and decades of us giving up our rights.
Yeah, well, exactly. And also your consciousness and your intellect. Yeah. Because the second you don't go and cast a vote, because like I live in Utah, our presidential vote has been the same forever.
Yeah.
You could make that argument in Utah. Well, what's the point of voting for president? Because it doesn't matter. The electoral votes are always going Republican anyway. Well, guess what? If you encourage people not to go to the ballot, then maybe they don't read up on the issue, the bond issue in your city.
Exactly.
Or a tax issue.
Exactly.
Or they don't understand what's going on with public transit around them, or whatever it is. You're encouraging people to disengage from public conversation. That's insane.
It is. And you're seeing it just get prevalent in our society where you can't even talk politics any longer. It's like, oh, that's the taboo discussion. You can't do that. I don't want to talk about politics. Really?
By the way, there were a lot of years I had that same argument. I didn't vote. So, full disclosure, from 2000 to 2008, I didn't vote because I had the same mentality, and it was 100% wrong.
It is.
I look at it now, and I realize how wrong it was, but at the time, I was, younger, disillusioned.
Mm-hmm.
I remember voting in the Gore-Bush election, and then watching that whole fiasco play out, and it just disillusioned me. I think that can happen at times, but you have to remember it's important to engage in that debate, whatever it is, even in a small way.
You know what? If you don't vote, you lose your right to bitch. That's how I see it.
Same thing with the economy.
Yep.
If you don't understand it, you lose your rights to complain about it when it crashes.
Yep. If you don't try in any capacity, you have no right to complain. You have no right to occupy Wall Street. You have no right to bitch and moan about the Fed or government or anything, because the reality is, and this is the amazing thing about knowledge. The reality is, there are things that you can do today that can make money regardless of what the market does. There are things that you can do today to protect against a devalued dollar. There are things you can do today to protect against inflation. If you know oil's going to go up, then buy oil. If you know the dollar's going to decline, then learn how to trade currencies. If you know that there's problems within our economic system and the next bar market happens, and Wall Street made money in those environments, then learn the techniques and get the skill set. And it doesn't take much. Remember what the CEO of BlackRock said. Consumers will not put forth short-term effort. And I'm telling you right now, that's all you got to do. It starts with the choice, and then you go make it happen.
Those Occupy Wall Street kids were so adorable.
Kids, man. There were some.
Funny.
They were some kids, and hell, I mean, if you put us back in when we were,
I would have been right there. I know.
Probably would have been.
That's why I say they were adorable.
Yeah, we probably would have been there.
Yeah, you just have a different perspective, And I would never discourage a young person from wanting to go out and participate. I thought that was the coolest thing about it.
Well,
they were out there. They were trying to voice their opinion.
It was cool. I agree. I mean, Tim, we were the same types of people in college that if the student electoral wanted to censor us in any capacity, we were poli-sci geeks, right? We would form protest.
Oh, I got to tell you,
That's what we did.
there's an artist. Well, I'll have to contact him. I actually met back up with him recently. There's an artist named Chris Bodley. He's a cartoon artist, and he's actually pretty famous. He's really, really good, and he like these Comic-Con things. He's always at them, like on the panels for how to draw up not cartoons but comic books, And when we were in college, just after you left, because we went to the same school, there was a big cartoon in the editorial of the paper where it has the president of the college talking to somebody else, and he says, "How long when do these justice kids graduate again?"
Oh Lord!
And then somebody from the background pops in. He says, "I think there's a couple more."
Oh yeah. Well, that's just how we were raised. We were raised to question. We were raised to think for ourselves, and we were raised to take control. We were raised with that very entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm not saying everything we did in college was right. In fact, looking back, some of the things we did, we were just doing just to go against the common thought process, right? And but at the same time, we had a lot of fun, and you actually got even into it more after I left. You and Mark did. And whatnot. I'll bet you there was a lot of people that were glad when we ultimately, all of us, ended up leaving. So,
you'll learn from stuff like that. My favorite thing about the Occupy Wall Street movement that they were wrong about, that was just drove me crazy, is they would complain about short selling. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, I do. It's ridiculous.
They would be like, how are they allowing people to short sell stocks? And I'm just like, oh wait.
How are you allowed to buy a stock?
Yeah, you could have done it, and anybody could have done it. You could have just done it. Everybody.
For a
that's
buyer,
not like some special
Go.
trick.
You don't have to ask for authority. You don't have to beg, borrow, and steal. It's a right-click sell. That's how they were allowed to do it.
Right. It's like if you're playing basketball and somebody steals the ball from you.
How are you allowed to steal the ball from me? That's not fair. Right. You got to let me dribble all the way to the hoop. You can't put your arms up. You can't play defense. You got to let me score.
That's not fair.
That's not how the world rotates. That's not how the world is, guys. How are they allowed to buy puts and whatnot? If you think it was bad in 2008, wait till the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Wait till the next one. Prices are so artificially inflated right now, and the economy is not nowhere near where it was before the crash started.
There's something in the rumor mill that you just made me think of. And we're not going to make this one. I'm just going to drop this one as a hint. We might have a good relationship with a physical metals dealer, Matt.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
And, yes, I've heard that. It's we can't really talk about it yet, but something we believe in at Tackle Trading is owning precious metals. And giving people an opportunity to invest in precious metals themselves. Who wouldn't want to hold the almighty gold? Now, I'm not a gold buyer right now because I still see price going. Right? Probably not, but no, it's coming, dropping it, just getting people encouraged around that, and we'll probably be forming relationships with a lot of people over the course of time, because we know that we can't provide it all, but we want to give the services that we seek out to the people that we teach.
You know what we need is a great trading accountant. I know we know
like
some
a
people,
financial czar type. Yeah. We need a tax czar, but I will only support that if we can call that individual, like they have a role, and their role is called the czar of taxes.
Oh no, that reminds me. This is why, by the way, I keep Word documents, like 20 of them. I'm going to put this down as a to-do. One of my old mentor students from 4 or 5 years ago, he's working as a trader full-time, doing great. I actually, got an invitation to his wedding and unfortunately couldn't make it. But he is a trader's accountant, because when he was in college is when he did his mentoring. Really? He came, and actually the next summer, Matt, you'll think this is really cool, he got an internship for a huge accounting firm in Phoenix. went down, spent the summer, and even as an intern, because he traded, they had the top accountants bringing him into their office saying, hey, do you know anything about this?
Oh, that's awesome.
And so he saw a niche there, and he started a trading accountant thing. I'm going to contact him and see what he's doing these days.
You know,
I'm talking to him in a couple months. But
the journey of the students we've taught over the years. You know, we got students on Wall Street. We got students working at institutions. We got students literally that work at high-frequency trading places. We got students that, have quit their jobs and literally just sit at home and trade. And, it's amazing. It's awesome to even think about it in that capacity. And by no means am I saying that's everybody, because I do believe traders, you have to work your ass off at it to be successful long term.
Yeah, it's not an easy road. But it's a good road.
It's an awesome road.
Well, first of all, whether it's a good or bad road, it's the road you're on.
Okay, here's the alternative. If you don't do something, I can guarantee you will get your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might as well do something about it. So we got 1.45 minutes out of Janet Yellen today. And I believe I had the equivalent of 19 soapboxes that were much more important than anything Janet Yellen said today.
Well, of course, I'm the one that's predictable. I mean, they could have put up a robot there.
God.
I mean, Janet Yellen robot.
She's not? How do you know she's not? We were talking. Maybe she's an alien. Who knows? Maybe Louis C.K. was right.
Yeah.
So, all right, buddy. 11:30, long day. We got Scotland tomorrow, and that's going to be a big event, and we're going to know a lot by the time we get up. And you know what, T? I'm still not going to wake up to deal with it. So I'm going to wake up about probably 8 o'clock.
I got a great song to close.
Oh, real quick, I got to tell you something before we do our great song to close. So today, I sent out a tweet, okay, and I said, with the Fed and Scotland stealing headlines, how long is it going to take Russia to do something before they take the headline back? And I'm not kidding. 6 hours later, a Russian general basically states that they're going to send in full military units into Ukraine.
I still don't know how that whole storyline hasn't had a bigger impact on markets.
Well, honestly, I mean, they still say they're under a truce, and yet they're killing each other every single day.
Yeah.
And they're putting and NATO is putting troops on the ground, and then Russia's getting antsy over that. God, how is that not? I knew.
That reminds me of something just odd. I went the sandwich I was telling you about earlier. I went and got a roast beef sandwich. Did you know? Here, talk about the worst corporate name in the world. There's a payment processing company that you can pay with your phone with through your credit card. It's actually called ISIS.
ISIS? Are you kidding me?
No. How do you not change your corporate name?
You have to change that immediately. They need to be fired for not changing that immediately. Right. I mean, I get it. You can't control what some radical, crazy, effed up people are doing over there in the Middle East, but they're still doing it, right? It's still in the headlines every day, right?
Right. If you named your little boy Adolf in 1932,
you're probably changing it in 45.
Yes.
And if you named your boy Adolf after that, you might have some psychological issues you need to talk about.
You've been listening to the Trading Justice podcast. If you've enjoyed yourself and think that the conversations and topics we've covered are important, help spread the word. Give us your feedback. 5 stars on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. The Trading Justice podcast is proudly sponsored by TackleTrading.com. Get off the sidelines and get in the game.